Okay, after a long hiatus and a few months of being too busy at work and only being able to churn out like one new prototype every like 2 weeks or something, I'm back and some progress has been made. These are all the kind of different versions. I really don't like this one. I hate that one. I'm really not proud of that one. I'll explain them, all of them, including two very interesting kind of presentation pieces that looked a whole lot better a few weeks ago, and one knob that actually works. And I will be making newer versions of it, more polished off versions, and one that I will actually honestly play with. But I'll get to that later. So over the course of this video, I'll kind of explain my thought process behind each one, their weights, which I have a scale set up on my desk right here from my kitchen, and I'll kind of talk about how that affected, because I did play with all these on this stick, using the same lever, same grommet, whatever. So yeah, really big pain in the ass. I'm gonna be honest, especially after the second operation, trying to keep the pieces nice and clean and as kind of shiny as I can get it. But aluminum, personally, in my opinion, I absolutely hate working with aluminum. I would rather work with 304 stainless steel. I'd rather work with brass. I'd rather work with copper, anything but aluminum. I really don't like this material for some reason. It's just not my type. But, you know, I got to do what I got to do. So I guess I'll start. So obviously this is the first, this is what the lever came with. You know, this kind of acrylic, you know, all plastic with just kind of like a bronze thread or something shoved in there, you know, to mount it. And it has this counter bore here. And I measured it out in a previous video that this is basically 2 inches long. The counter bore is about 300 thousandths or 0.3 inches deep, meaning that the total height that it stands fully screwed in is about 1.7 inches. And I'll get into why that's important throughout some of these prototypes that I made. But regardless, let's kind of revamp from the first one onward, because I did arrange these linearly, how I progressed, you know, through my ideas. And we'll go through the first one. In my opinion, the 304 stainless one is still by miles the prettiest one. It is still by miles the heaviest one. It is still the most unusable one. But it just looks so good, because 304 stainless, when it's kind of bead blasted like this, it has this awesome kind of gunmetal finish. And you know, you got to do some crazy stuff on aluminum to get it to look like this. And it just kind of comes naturally with 304. So I'm really sad that something like this probably will not be possible. I'll experiment sometime later when I have more time to try to get this with the weight down, but I doubt it. But man, do I wish this worked. This one is a exact replica of the plastic one that it came with originally. So for reference, just to kind of rehash what I talked about in a previous video, we have it set at 0, and the stock one weighs 32 grams, 31 grams ish, whatever. And the 304 stainless one is a whopping 194 grams. You know, basically it's 6 times the weight, unusable. So yeah. Now, going on from that, I did make 2 carbon copies of this one in aluminum. Okay. Now, again, with the grommet tension in here, I think if you upped the tension by like 5 or 10, whatever the like notation is, I don't know, newtons or whatever, these would probably be playable. They have the same exact 0.3 inch depth counter bore on there, same thread length, basically same size. These are both 2 inches. One of these I bead blasted, which is little glass pellets that you shoot at it and it kind of polishes it off to get this kind of matted look. And the other one I left polished post-machining. Comes out kind of scratchy because I was rushing like crazy, and none of these are to be taken seriously just yet. But regardless, the weight of these are 68, about 2 times the weight of the plastic one, which is pretty freaking good. Playing with them, the feel is of course very premium, cold to the touch, whatnot. Feels luxury. Doesn't necessarily look luxury. It does get scratched up because I had this in my backpack for a while, and I was like going from work and back, and I forgot to take it out, and it was like clicking and clanking against all these other ones, so it did get a little scarred here and there. I was like taking these to my parents' house and showing them what was up, and they were all like, "Oh, this is so cool." I'm like, "Yeah, I know." But yeah. So basically what I'm getting at is these 3, I was trying to emulate exactly what the base one was. It's not really possible to get the same weight and kind of physical feeling while playing with the lever in a metal version with this shape and size and exact dimensions, because that's what I tried, and trust me, it just doesn't really feel right. So going forward, I decided to modify how these things look, feel, their features, their sizes, their finishes, etc. And I came up with these 4 designs, which this one I specifically super hate, but I'll get to that in a minute. And this one looks like an very weird kind of dildo. And so does this one kind of. But starting from these 2, these are the same shape and size for the most part, except I added grooves on this one, or these kinds of ridges, I guess you could say. These are rounded ridges, so you can see right there. And I did chamfer them off so they're not sharp at all. Now, these both are 1.7 inches tall, so 0.3 shorter than this. And they also have the 0.3 counterbore. That means that it sits at a whopping 1.1 inches above this, okay? It is very short. So in my idea, these were a complete failure, because when I was playing with them, the way that these 2 at 2 inches were sitting, it was like up to the height of basically like halfway my middle finger and my whole index finger, or ring finger, I should say. And it felt so weird having my pointer finger glide across the top of it. Because when I play, obviously, I've mentioned this many times, but I like slap it. I do this. I don't like hold it and move it like this. I like do kind of twitch inputs, I guess you could say. And it was super obnoxious because while I was playing, as you can kind of see, it had the same kind of height as it does now, except imagine that my middle finger is my pointer finger, and when I would play, it would like go over the top like this. And it's not until you play with something like that you realize how absolutely frustrating it is, especially if you play in the same method that I do. I played maybe 2 games with it, and I absolutely fucking hated it. I scrapped both of them basically immediately, and I was like, this is fucking stupid. Like, no shot. It can't be this short. It has to be taller. It has to be. Either I make this 2 inches tall with the 0.3 counterbore, or I make it 1.7 inches tall like it is right now without the 0.3 deep counterbore. Because then it will sit at essentially the same height that these would, right? So, obviously I'm stupid because I made 2 of basically the same thing, just with different outer designs. I do actually kind of fuck with this one. I like the way it looks. I think it looks kind of cool, especially when it's all shiny. My dad really liked this one. He said it looks pretty cool. Does look, ribbed for your pleasure, I guess you could say. It actually is very kind of cool to touch and feel, and I really like the top design right here. I'm actually quite proud of this one. They're all pretty equally spaced. And overall, it's actually pretty cool. And these came in at a whopping weight of 56. Okay, compared to these ones that I replicated at 68. So it was only about a 12 gram difference. So not a lot. Not a lot. So that's why I kind of deemed them failures. Granted, they're cool, but failures nonetheless. Now this one I was trying to be fucking creative and it sucks. This is knurling, which is like an imprint basically, a diamond imprint on it. And you know, it does look kind of cool, I will say. I really fucked up the ratios here. I hate the way this looks. This chamfer is way too deep. This should go all the way up here and it should be a tiny chamfer, a really small one, so there's as much knurling as possible. Same here as well. Now this one, I don't know if you can tell, is even shorter than the 1.7. Guess what I made this one? Guess what my dumbass made this one? 1.6. Because I decided that the 1.7 wasn't short enough. I don't know what I was thinking. I was just stupid. And to be even dumber, boom, I added the 0.3 counterbore as well. It does feel cool, but this is just the epitome of my stupidity. I learned nothing from my mistakes. I just wanted it to look cool, but the usability is even worse than these two. And to be even more blunt, it's only 3 grams lighter than these two. So the weight was already just stupid. Unusable. Looks cool, and I'll probably copy this idea because it does feel very cool, especially if you're somebody that typically holds on to your joystick while you play and play more like this rather than my kind of slapping method. It actually has a very nice feel to it. Very grippy, very grippy, very cool. And I can see how somebody would actually like to play with this. And it does look fucking tight, if I'm being honest. Look at that. I got a really nice knurl on there. I'm just gonna let you enjoy that for a second. That's really cool. And then I went too far, all right? What the fuck is this? What is this? Look at this thing. This is 1.7 inches. But it's 1.7 inches true. The thread is right on the bottom, which means that it sits at the same height as the carbon copies. But I gave it this kind of, you know, slimmed down form where I cut a lot of the, you know, excess material off to where essentially it was like right in between my pointer and my middle finger when I was slapping it, which is whatever, and then my ring finger would kind of slap the bottom portion. Now, this actually works. It works. It's only about 3 or 4 grams heavier than the plastic one. And some people might actually like this design. But regardless, it's functional. If I made this a little bit thicker, this top part, and I kind of got these middle ridges, these kind of 2 layers down here a little bit thicker, I think this would actually be a very cool design. I personally just don't like this one because I think I got the ratios of these wrong. Like this bottom kind of pillar looking shaft is a little bit too long, so it fucks with like the equilibrium kind of look of it, the symmetry, I guess. You know what I mean? It's like I wish I should have added like, I don't know, 1 more ridge or something right down the middle here and expanded these. Like this one should be a little bit bigger, this one should be a little bit bigger, this one should be a little bit bigger. There should be 1 more here that's a little bit bigger, and then it should be here. And then I think that would look very, very cool. You know, maybe it's for somebody, but I think this is something that I definitely want to work on in the future. This would be even pretty cool if on this top one right here, this top layer, I added the knurling from this one and kind of added it on top of that. I think that would look pretty cool. So look forward to something like this. I think I'm going to have, you know, it's Memorial Day weekend coming up, so I'll have a little bit more time. I'll be able to go in, kind of do my business, and I might be able to recreate some of these. So that's all of these. Now, from here to here, they're useless. This one is usable, but it's not perfect. Now these two, these were something that I decided to do just kind of to put on my shelf and say, hey, look at this cool thing I did, right? So this is brass, this is copper. Now, both of these, when I first manufactured them, were super shiny. This was as shiny as these buttons, okay? And when I put it on, now, I will say, it's even heavier than the 304 stainless. This is because it's a little bit bigger. And same with the copper one as well. Copper is even heavier. These were both super shiny. This was like a rose gold and this was a gold. And they looked incredible mounted on this. I wish I took pictures before they started to tarnish, just because I was, I'm touching them, and copper and brass tarnish over time when they're exposed to water, humidity, bodily oils and whatnot. And I will say these are kind of like promotional pieces, I guess you could say. This one I added a little bit more of a flat top onto it, and this one is like the perfect rounded kind of copy to these ones. And this one I kind of incorporated the flat top that I have on these two, and the rest of them, I guess you could say. But these were kind of like promo pieces. I just kind of did them because I wanted them on my shelf, and just kind of a cool talking point. But I mean, I don't know, maybe some people like the tarnishing because it looks natural. It's like a more of a natural aesthetic, I guess you could say. But I really liked them when they were new, and there isn't really a way to like lock in and not have them tarnished. They're almost always going to be tarnished. I don't know what you'd have to do. You'd have to do some crazy like clear coating on it or something, but even that would rub off if you like play with them actively. But again, they're not really usable. They're like 7 to 8 times as heavy as the acrylic bat top. So these are kind of just like something to have on the shelf and be like, hey, look at my gold and copper, or brass and copper bat tops that are fucking unusable. Okay, so now I want to talk about my most recent prototype that I think I'm going to work really hard on to kind of perfect, and which I think is like kind of the design I'm going to go forward with, along with I think this one as well. I'm going to try to revamp this one and make it pretty cool. But here's this one, except there's kind of like a hole in the top, and I'll get to what I want to make changes on this in the future. I think maybe this upcoming weekend, so there might be an update on this a lot faster than the break in between my last video and now. But just to give you guys a perspective here, this one actually is not a lot lighter. It's about 56, which is the same weight as essentially these two. But here's the kicker, right? This is actually thicker. This is 1 3/16 on the top here, and these are only 1 1/8 on the top here, and this one is 0.1 inches taller. It's actually 1.8 inches in length, and there's no counterbore on the bottom, which means that when you screw it on here, it actually sits at the highest of all of these knobs that I made. Now, I like that a lot, and I'm going to go forward with that because for this one, when it's actually mounted and I play, the entirety of my pointer finger, when I do my movement inputs and whatnot, actually encompasses the whole stick rather than being kind of like part way on the halfway point, because that's kind of how my hand is when I play with these. It kind of goes, I guess, around this distance, I would say, this much coverage. And for this one, when it's mounted, that fact that it's only 100 thousandths taller, it actually encompasses the majority of my pointer finger, which actually feels very good. Now, this hole right here actually saves a lot of weight, and I'm going to make it go deeper next time, about 1/4 of an inch deeper, because right now the thread activation for this is 3/4 of an inch, and this is actually only 1/2 an inch. And this happens to be a through hole because of this big hole, which means that I can actually drill in 1/4 of an inch more, removing even more weight. And speaking of this design right here, I was rushing a little bit, but this is actually not what I want to do. I want to actually make it more aggressive, and I want it to have this kind of rounded shape, except imagine it's like half of this radius right here, and instead of going all the way to this point here, it actually goes in and kind of concave inside of there. So I kind of attempted this really quickly, but I'm going to draw this on Mastercam probably over this weekend and try to get it perfect so that it's one continuous radius going all the way into this hole. No like sharp point like it is kind of now, if you can see that on the camera, if it's picking it up. Nothing like this, but it'll just be completely rounded all the way on the inside and then kind of go all the way in, but to like a point. And I guess the only way I can reference it is kind of like this dark hole kind of gravity chart thing where you see how it's like a big hole here and then it goes in and it kind of comes to the point, and that point would be the thread on the bottom. So basically what I'm saying is that this hole will appear a lot bigger, like it'll probably start all the way out here, right? So it'll be like a really small radius, kind of like up to about here, and then it's going to be a pretty aggressive radius curling all the way from here all the way inside to a bigger hole, right? A bigger diameter hole that then comes down to a point, meaning it gets tighter all the way down there and chamfers off the thread on the bottom. And what I'm hoping that'll do is I'm hoping it'll shed off at least another 10 grams, which would get me to around the 45, 46 kind of area, which I think is when it will become usable. Because even these 55, 56 gram ones are completely fine. They work. The stick feels normal. It feels just a little bit heavier, just a little bit like difference in the kickback from the grommet. But overall, the playing, it just takes like 5 minutes, 2 games or something like that, and you get used to it and it's completely usable. Now, if I can shed another 10 grams off of this and get it into the mid 40s, it would probably be perfect. Like I wouldn't need to make any more changes. So I'm hoping that's what I can do with kind of just general dimension changes here. Now, what I was thinking to kind of improve on the visuals of this, even though I do like it nice and polished, I got the finish of this one a lot better off than these first ones that I was making. But I'm thinking of either incorporating kind of these grooves that this one has to this, which I think would look really cool, or I would leave this nice and polished here, and on this flat point, just like I'm planning on this one, to add this knurl to kind of give it that futuristic look. And I think that would look like super sick. I think a lot of people would like that, and it would just be really cool to have. And I would 100% use it because I like the feeling of this. And I'm really excited to get started on this. I'm really excited to show you guys what it's going to look like and how it's going to play. And I'll definitely make videos about how the difference in like the kickback or the feel and whatnot is compared to the traditional lever top. But definitely look forward to that because it's coming up really soon. I'm like motivated because I just made this one this past week because the time between making this and this was like a month because it was just so busy at work. So now I have a little bit of time, so I'm going to really try to get something good out of this one. I think it's going to look really cool. So yeah, that's kind of like the update video for now. Kind of expect a little bit of a shorter length video, or maybe in the next one I'll kind of attach each one of these ball tops to here just so you guys can see how much the weight of a ball top or of the bat top affects how the lever behaves. I'm sure some of you guys would be interested in that, just in case maybe you're looking at buying a secondhand bat top from like Arcade Shock or something that doesn't come stock, different color. You never know, it could be like 5 grams heavier, and that could impact it a little bit. It could feel a little weird. So I hope you guys look forward to that video, and I'll try to get that uploaded probably by this Sunday or Monday, which is actually when Combo Breaker 2024 is on. So I'm definitely going to be watching the Tekken tournament when that comes around. But yeah, this is the whole collection. This is about 2 months of work right here. Obviously not not consistent 2 months of work, but I figure it's a pretty nice lineup. Let me know what you guys think. Let me know if you guys got any cool ideas or if you want to see something cool be made. But I'm definitely going to keep on trying to churn out some of these. I have, I think, at least 2 more ideas that are different than this one that I want to execute on, but it's going to require a little bit more thinking. I have them drawn up in CAD. I just haven't had the time to do them. I just thought this one would be the most efficient, but it's definitely something that'll happen sooner than later. So look out for that. And thanks for watching, guys.